Okay, so I've gone ahead and already exported our photo into Photoshop. What I like to do is just go into my layers panel and just duplicate the background layer. And when that is done, I'll run this tool here called the Retouch panel. And it comes in with a lot of tools for retouching. So this is where I'm going to create all my layers for frequency separation. And this is very interesting, right? In creating the frequency separation layers, you actually have to break down your layers into a color layer and a texture layer. The tool used by the extension here is the median. Others would like to use Gaussian blur or the surface blur or any type of blur that can actually take out all the details. But in our case, we are going to be using the median, and the radius of the median used here is a default, which is 7. That comes default with the extension. Okay, now I like it this way. Actually, it's not completely removing or blurring everything out in our photo. It's actually keeping some of the details in there, which will come in handy. The idea is to be able to blur out the tone layer so you can have something separate from the texture layer. But in our case, I want to be able to keep some of the details in there, and you see why. So it specifies a radius of 7. I'm going to click OK to that. And it's going to group everything else, but there are others in there. So when you come in here, like we said, we have our color layer already here if I solo it out. And then the next part is our texture layer. The texture layer is also duplicated here and click to it. And this one is just a copy. So don't get confused or anything. It's just a copy. And if I work here and I make certain mistakes, I can just delete this one, go back here and just duplicate it again and start all over. So when I bring everything back again, there's a empty layer here. Right, and it's there because I just love how you can be able to work on this one, clean whatever it is that you want to clean, and it's usually what is beneath the texture layer. That means we are going to paint in areas that has faults and correct them on this empty layer, and if we make any sort of mistakes, I can just delete it easily and create another one. It's all helping us work non-destructively, which is really good. Okay, so with that said, we have to now go through and identify all the challenges or the areas that we have to work on. If you zoom in and out, you're able to see the entire photo, and you can be able to see all the problem areas and places you'd have to fix. Looking at the forehead here, there are some blemishes that we have to control. We also have to work here. We also have to blend some of the tones that is moving from the shadowy areas into the highlights or the mid-tones. Some of these areas along the nose bridge, we have to work on that, especially the lips. I'll teach you ways and means to just clean up this without losing any detail. Right, we are not going in for a beauty look, so I just love how we can maintain some of these flyaways. It adds to the photo, so I'm going to clean those that are in the extreme, but we'll leave most of these ones on to add a bit of character to our photo. Right, what we have here is also going to be cleaned up. This here is also going to go. We're going to leave some of these on to add to the photo. The back here is enough. I'm not going to touch them because we're not going for something extremely clean. We want to be able to maintain a level of realism to our photo, so we're not going to just clean everything up. All right, so to start off, I'm just going to head on to my texture layer with the layer that says work here. And since I'm working on the skin now, I'm just going to use the healing brush tool. Right, I can choose to select a portion of the skin that is clean and then go about cleaning all the layers up. Right, now you can see what has happened. I've been able to clean some of the spots up, but it's still showing this dark spots here, and that is happening with our tone layer. And in that case, like I told you, we'll be going back and forth. Now the tool we are using can actually work on both the texture layer and the color layer. Right, I want to be able to control where I pick. So to do that, I'll use the clone tool so that I can actually select where I want to fill the layer with, and not leave it to any sort of guesswork by the algorithm or anything. Right, so now it is done. The texture layer is cleaned, but it's still showing up. So that is when we have to go to our tone layer, use the healing brush tool. We still have to sample a clean area and back it in and wipe it off. So I told you earlier that since we didn't blur our tone layer that much, we have to work double. And the main reason we are doing that is because we will be able to save enough texture to work with. Personally, I feel like when you blur the image entirely, not all the texture is able to be retained in the texture layer. So I like to keep some of it in our tone layer too as well, so that I can have them double and add up. Right, so what I'm doing now is still working on the tone layer with the healing brush tool, just copying and pasting some of the good areas, and this does some sort of math to blend the surrounding edges in, so we don't have to just do much. It will do all of those for us. I'm going to go to my texture layer, select the clone stamp tool by hitting the S key, and then just clean up this area up a bit. I think it's blurred out. My settings for my clone stamp tool is really a hard brush. It's soft, but I'm controlling it using the hardness here. Somewhere around here is okay. Okay, I don't want it to be completely hard, so I have a soft edge to it. It makes it blend a little bit better. Okay, so I'm just going to go in on the texture layer now and just clean up some of the areas that are not adding to a photo. Okay, and I'm not completely going to remove everything. Something like this one, I feel like it's some sort of like birthmark or a freckle or something, so I'm just going to leave that because it can add to our photo. Now clean some of these fine lines here, right? You can go through first and just clean up your texture layer and come back again and just do a copy on the tone layer, right? But you have to know where you've actually cleaned and the problems that was there so that you don't miss out on cleaning up the tone layer. So it's best to actually tackle the texture and just go back to your tone layer and fix where the issue was. Okay, that is in my case. So here it looks like a pimple. It's on the texture layer. I'm going to use my healing brush tool to do that. Sample, clean, sample, clean. This is quite fast, so I can be able to move through and just clean up some of this a lot faster. I'm going to go into this section right here, increase my brush size and just blend some of these one in. It does a good job on blending all of these ones in. I'm not going to use that to blend the tone, just clean up because it can get out of hand. I'm just going to go here and just clean up some of these guys up. Right now, there are certain things that also add to the image that looks like problem, but they aren't. When you look at the lines that are going around the neck over here, like I said, we're not going in for something like a beauty shot. We still want to be able to maintain a level of realism and keep some of the characters' details in there so they can look more natural. So when we get to our dodging and burning, this is the time that I'm going to just lighten some of these areas up a little bit and not too much. Not going to touch them just yet. I'm going to go to my texture layer, select the clone stamp tool and clean up this flyaway. You can see there's a little patch that is happening right here. And like I said, I have to go back to the tone layer and clean that one also up. All right, something like this. Great. Now moving on to these parts. This is a little bit tricky, but I have a cool way to do it. If we use the traditional method of just, using our clone stamp tool to just try to select an area and just try to blend it in, what usually happens is this hair is flowy, right? It's in a pattern nature. It is moving from one side in a straight line and going to the next. So if you're not able to match that flow, I don't know what this is, but this is what happens if you don't select those lines well to copy and paste them to the problem area. So this is not going to be the right tool for us to work on the hair. So I'm just going to back off. And what I'm going to choose is now the spot healing brush tool. And this is what I love about it. If I select or I draw down this way, what it's actually doing is just sampling around the place I marked and just filling those in with. So you can see that it's been able to blend in the flow of the hair a lot better than when I used the clone stamp tool. So I'm still going to go back to my tone layer and do the same thing. Remember, we have to duplicate it so that the tone layer can also blend pretty well. I'm just also going to do the same thing for this guy right here. Do it on the texture layer, do it one more, and then go back to my color layer, tone layer, and do the same thing, and bam, this is what we have. So I just clean the hair up a little bit, back off and see, good, and do the same thing for this guy also. Back it up, see everything. There are some here that we have to clean up. Let's do it for here. Do it for this side, back it up. There are some leftover on the tone layer. Let's do the same thing, go back in here, clean up what we have here, do the same thing for this on the texture layer. I can move through faster and later on go back to the tone layer and do the same, okay? Since it's in the pattern nature, you wanna use the spot healing brush tool. And I think I'm gonna, let's see what this adds to it. I'm gonna clean this one up. It breaks the flow. Back it again. Let's go over it on the tone layer one more. Good, I like this. All right, now moving on. I'm gonna go to my texture layer, select my clone stamp tool, and I wanna clean up this side a little bit, not all, but just the flyaways, okay? Just gonna go in on the texture layer. It seems like nothing is happening, but there's a level of the texture layer being cleaned up, so that's good. I'm going to select it, select my spot healing brush tool. No, the healing brush actually, because it's going to do a nice blend for us. Okay. Sample the areas around it and then use that to clean the tone layer. So I'll back it up and see how much it's adding to a photo. I think we can clean some of these guys up a little bit. Back it up. I think I can come in here and just clean these guys up a little bit more. All right, I think I can go in there with my clone stamp tool on the texture layer and clean these guys up. All right, even though I want them to actually stay and flow out, I just want it to be something that is working, not just anyhow. Good, like this. Let's wipe this one down a little bit and let's take this one off a little bit. Good, still on the tone layer, right? Now if some of the pixels or the texture is blurry, then it's automatically going to be on the tone layer. So I usually know it and I would just stay on and work on those in the tone layer. All right, this is problematic. So what I'm going to do is use my clone stamp tool with a soft edge. All right, and then what I'm going to do is just sample something closer to it and use that, because there's a strange tone that is black here. When you use the spot healing brush, the healing brush tool, you're just going to try to blend it in. That's why we have that spill. So I want to avoid that and just keep this. So I'll use the clone stamp tool to just sample areas around it and just paste them onto it. So I'm going to take my clone stamp tool again, change it back to hard and take off the pressure and then clean this part up. Right, you see it leaves itself in the tone layer. So that's when I'm also going to go back to my healing brush tool again and take it off. As I'm doing it, I have to be able to back it up and just see what is working and what is not. Okay, I don't want to overdo it. I like it with the way it looks now. Let me go back to the texture layer again and let me take this hard flowy thing off. All right, let's see what this one's gonna look. Yes, I like it this way. I don't want to overdo it. I just want it to have a little bit of character to it. And let me go back into the tone layer and take my healing brush tool again by hitting J. And then I'm gonna blend some of these side in. Even though we want to keep it all, we don't want to make it look bad. Okay, so let's try to blend some of these guys in a lot better. There's just line running across the neck and I don't know if I should take it off or not. Let me see. Let's see how this is gonna work. I think it works out just fine, so let's take it off. This is why I like the healing brush too, because the blending is so perfect. You don't have to go over it multiple times to get it to blend in perfect. So I'm just gonna blend this side up a little bit, right? So yeah, I think we can park it here and now do something more manual, right? So I'm gonna go to the empty layer called work here. I'm gonna select my brush tool, make sure it is a soft round brush, right? The hardness is all the way down to 0. I'm gonna make sure my pen pressure is selected. And I usually like to back my flow down to somewhere around like 16. My opacity is gonna be around 26. I actually add 10 to my flow to get what the opacity needs to be. Okay, so I like to keep it at this values right here, and I'm gonna go my work here layer, and then this is where I'm just gonna blend overall images in. I'm looking at blemishes, I'm looking at these bags, I'm looking at corners like this with tones that are not moving smoothly. I'm looking at the angles that we have here with the light not being able to hit some of these gutters, let me call it like that. All right, in here that I'm going to be blending in, right? And we're also going to be fixing the forehead area and making sure this area of the hair flows well. There are parts here that we have to also blend in a lot better to make sure the light hitting it is actually soft and the transition between the highlights and the shadows are even more smooth, right? This part looks a lot darker, okay, what we have over here. And we'll have to fix that also and make it look clean. You know, you come to the nose bridge, we have to blend all of these shadows in this areas right in a lot better so that everything can flow, right? And we're not going to overdo it. We still have to maintain a level of realism by keeping some of the structure or the way the light is hitting it. I've seen most people just go in there and just take all of these down completely. It ruins the photo, it ruins the person's face, okay? And it also destroys the structure of the person's face. Let me put it that way. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is just look for any areas that we have to fix, and I usually like to start with the forehead area and just move down. So with that said, I'm just gonna blend those in. So I like to make sure things don't look patchy, right? So I just select some of these tones and see, I'm not working on the texture layer, I'm working beneath it. So everything I'm doing just goes beneath the texture layer. You're not gonna cause any problem to the texture layer when you work like this, okay? What I'm doing is just making sure things blend well, right? These patchy areas are all gonna go. We can do a little bit using frequency separation, the rest can be done using our dodge and burn. So I'll just go to the forehead area here. All I'm trying to do is just make sure things blend a lot better. This stage, you just have to take your time, okay? Just blend them in. When you're looking at here, I like to make sure the shadows moving from this side going into the lighter side blends in a lot better. I'm not looking to overdo it and mess up what the light is capturing, or what the skin is capturing, sorry, from the light, okay? But that is the way the face is supposed to be. The light is supposed to here and just spread across the way it is because of the way the face looks. So you don't have to overdo it and just take everything out and ruin the structure of the person's face. All right, I'm gonna keep it around here, making sure that the tone moves a lot better. I'm just selecting all around and making sure that I'm blending what needs to be blended well in. All right, so sometimes you can see things after you've even done the correction on the texture layer and come back and do them again. So I don't like the way the eyebrow is kind of flowing. I want to clean these guys up. Okay, it's tiny little ones. She already has a really clean and good face. Good face, sorry. You know, it's clean. She has a clean face, so there's not much to do on the skin layer. Oh, sorry, on the skin, than to just take out some of the little things in there, just a little bit. Just take some of these ones out so that it can look. Back it up again. Let's bring the other one back and see. Okay, we're gonna keep this one. Let's go to the other side. All right, I'm just wiping all these ones down. Sometimes you're not gonna see them, but throughout all the stages that you're gonna go through, you're sometimes gonna have something that is not working from before, so you have to come back again and then work on them. Okay, it's okay.
With the lips, I think it takes on the same approach as to fixing the other part of the texture and the tone layer. So in here, I'm just going to select my clone stamp tool. And I'm just going to move along the same lines as it is on the lips, okay? So this is what I'm going to do. Just pick and start moving what I see and just replace that with everything that we have here. I'm first working on my texture layer so that I can be able to recreate all the texture that flows in the same pattern. Then when I'm done, I'll go to my tone layer and just fix this spot that we have over here. So I'm just going and cleaning up anything that doesn't need to be there. That includes all of this little spots that we have here. Okay, anything that raises to a point where the height is not really appealing, I'll just take them off. So I'll go through and just quickly take all of them out. Things like these, I'll take them out. And then try to clean up anything that is not supposed to be there. Since light is hitting it from an angle, it will be very easy for us to see what we have to clean up, because the lips is just going to catch light. And when you zoom out, you're definitely going to see what doesn't need to be there. It's all based on what you see, right? What is not really working for you. So all you can do is just zoom in and out to see what is working and what is not. At this point, I'm just going to go back into my tone layer, select my healing brush tool, and try to match this tone that we have here to what we have here. We've already fixed up the texture layer, so fixing the tone layer is just a breeze, okay? It's just gonna show underneath the texture layer of everything that you've done, so that is pretty cool. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that whenever you're fixing something of this sort, you're not picking up anything that is not going to play well in what is already stated here. Okay, you can see that the lips are catching, sorry, the lips is catching this white highlight over here. So I'm not going to go in here and pick something darker to come and fix it, right? If I do that, it's just messing up the whole structure of the lips. Okay, so I'll back it off and just pick everything in the same plane so that I'm able to retain the structure of the lips pretty well. When I do that, I'll just remind myself to back off a little bit and just come back in again. This one is pretty saturated. I'm just gonna blend it in a little bit more. I don't want to take all of these lines out because personally I feel like they add to the photo. Maybe this one will go just a little bit. Let's see. I'm going to select my clone stamp tool and just try to match these up. If it works, maybe I'll just take these ones down a little bit right here and take these ones off. Good, back it off. I think it's working out. So I'm going to go back to my tone layer, take my healing brush tool and just go fix all of these red spots that we have here. I'm still picking it from the same plane. Okay, I'm not going too far from here to there because light is going to affect here more than those parts of the lip that are far away. So try to remember to pick surfaces that are clean but closer to the plane you're trying to fix. So I just go through, back up and see what we get. Just come in again. I think this part will have to be fixed. So I'll first do these ones and later go there. Go to my texture layer, clone stamp tool, and then try to fix these ones. And there's also another thing with the focus, right? So the shot is, this plane of the face is much closer to camera than this plane of the face, okay? This side is much closer to this side than this side. So that same thing also happens here. So those close up to the camera is going to be in focus as compared to those far away. So if you're picking the texture, you're not going to pick anything in detail here and paste it over here. It's not going to look okay. So you have to pick things around the same plane so that you get the color and the texture working together. So I'm just going to back it up a little bit and see what we have. I really don't like these guys right here. I'll take them out. I think it's starting to come out nice. So let's go here and just wipe some of these down, back it up. Good. I think now we can just work on the tone layer by painting in what we want to stay. So in here, I'm just gonna pick some of these lighter tones and just try to blend these guys right in. Also remember, the lips have shape, right? There's like a valley thing going on here, so that is why it is catching shadow, since our light source is coming from this direction, right? So I'm not going to take it all away and ruin the shape of the lips. Okay, it gives the lips volume, so I'm just going to maintain this shadowy area here, but rather blend all of these guys in because they are along the same plane. Just going to clean this one up a little, back it up, see what we are working with. Great. I'm just going to go here too and just bring this one down a little. Great. Be sure to zoom out each time you do or make any changes so that you see the effects of it. You don't want to be zoomed all in and just do your overall changes. Else you might ruin the image and not see some of the mistakes that is happening behind. So you want to zoom out and just see what you're working with each edit. Alright. When we get into dodging and burning, it will be great because we'll be able to blend these ones in a lot more. So for now, let's just try to concentrate on just blending the tones, and the luminous stuff will be done in dodging and burning. I think this guy can go. Of course, it's catching this huge spot. Highlights I don't really want. I'm just gonna pick stuff around here, and then take it out. He wants it out. Let's go in again. I think it works now. All right. So with that said, we can move into dodging and burning and just try to put everything together.